What if everything you thought you knew about France's mission in Africa was a lie? Why would a young African soldier risk everything to kick out one of the world's biggest powers? What did Emmanuel Macron do that made millions across Africa turn their backs on France? How did France go from trusted partner to unwanted guest in just months? These questions and more are answered in this documentary. Welcome to Review Daddy Documentary. When Burkina Faso said, "No more," the world listened. But the fall of French military presence didn't just happen. It was triggered by three major mistakes made by French President Emmanuel Macron. Mistake 1. Ignoring the rise of Pan-African sentiments. In the heart of West Africa, a new consciousness was rising. African Gen Zs, tired of neo-colonialism and foreign domination, began to demand independence, not just in flags and borders, but in power, policy, and wealth. Macron failed to read the signs. While youth across Burkina Faso and other Sahel nations demanded sovereignty, Macron continued to speak with a colonial undertone, offering aid with conditions, partnerships that looked like dominance, and diplomacy that often seemed dismissive. This misread created a wide emotional gap between the French government and the African people. It made France look outdated, condescending, and resistant to Africa's awakening. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a 35-year-old revolutionary, filled that gap with military boots, nationalist fire, and words the youth were desperate to hear. Africa must rise without foreign control. Mistake 2. Militarizing without delivering results. France had boots on the ground in Burkina Faso under the guise of fighting terrorism. But as the years passed, jihadist attacks only grew worse. Rural communities were ravaged. Civilians lost trust. French bases multiplied, yet security deteriorated. To many Burkinabe, it looked like France was more interested in staying than saving. Macron's government pushed Operation Barkhane and later Takuba, claiming it was fighting extremism. But Burkina Faso was losing lives, land, and peace. The French presence began to feel more like occupation than protection. Traore, then a young officer, watched his country bleed under France's help. When he rose to power in 2022 through a coup supported by the people, one of his first major moves was to ask, why are they still here if we're not safer? It was a brutal question, and one Macron had no honest answer for. Mistake 3. Failing to respect Traoré's popular legitimacy. Captain Traoré may have taken power through a military coup, but his approval ratings skyrocketed. From students to traders, farmers to freedom fighters, many viewed him as Africa's Thomas Sankara reborn. Macron's administration, however, continued to treat Traoré like an illegitimate child of politics, refusing to acknowledge his people's overwhelming support. French diplomats hesitated, criticized, and avoided direct respect toward the new leader. This came across as arrogant. It inflamed the public. Traoré became even more popular each time he defied Paris. So when he issued the order for French troops to leave within a month, the nation celebrated. Not because of hate for France, but because of love for a leader who finally listened. Macron's biggest failure wasn't policy, it was pride. He underestimated a generation. He ignored a revolution. He clung to a role that Africa no longer wants France to play. The withdrawal of French troops from Burkina Faso was not just a military retreat. It was a symbolic surrender of a colonial legacy that Africa is determined to bury. And it all began with three avoidable mistakes. The old Africa is gone, a new one is rising. And this time, it writes its own story.